Hello again, ladies and gentlemen, and other assorted gender assignations. Welcome back to the Bored to Death Bingecast, where we take TV shows and movies and binge them in easily digestible chunks. I am Jay Winger, being joined by
Zeke,
Chris,
and we are back for part 5 of our binge of Mobile Suit Gundam. Where we left off, the crew of the White Base were starting to crack a little bit under the constant strain of being perpetually under attack in enemy territory.
Yeah, that'll happen.
Bright had basically collapsed from exhaustion and grief because Ryu had died in the previous episode, and even Mirai was starting to crack a little bit under the strain because she had to step up to take command while Bright was in medbay.
Not only that, but she also has to essentially pilot the White Base also.
Yeah.
Which one of the things I never quite understood was the fact that they use a steering wheel, like an old-fashioned looking steering wheel.
The ship's wheel.
Yeah.
If you watch things we watch, Power Rangers, and you question a steering wheel on a spaceship, at least they can go up and down like this. How do you punch like this?
I don't know. Are we talking about the Zords or something else?
Oh, just the Zords.
Okay.
Well, you're trying to apply logic to tokusatsu.
At least
which you don't do when it comes to Sentai stuff like that.
At least a spaceship, you push forward, it goes down. You push up, it goes,
you pull
back,
up, and it goes
up. You turn left, you turn right. That's all you need for spaceships.
Yeah, or in the case of the one episode where they had to get a Zaku or a enemy mobile suit off of it and flip it upside down.
Hey, the slow movement, they were all doing laps around the walls.
I don't know. I think the three kids, Cass, Let's, and Kiko, were having a little bit of difficulty with that because they were tumbling like they were in a dryer.
Imagine the chefs instead of cooking and cutting.
I want to see what happened with all the knives flying all over the place.
They hit the wall, and next thing you know, the knives flying by them. Like, ah!
You mean the one cook that they have on board?
Oh, that's true. The guy who made the salt. That's right.
He got his salt. He's a very happy cook, even though he got stabbed during the loop-de-loop.
During the loop-de-loop. But they also in the last episode, I believe they were being lured into a trap that had been set by Makuve.
And that's when a mega particle beam cannon had shot at them at the left side launcher for their mobile suits, the hangar essentially.
Yeah, and they disabled one of its engines.
Yeah,
too. So they had to basically crash land.
And meanwhile, Bright's been in bed the entire time.
This man's never going to take a nap ever again.
No.
No, it's like he'll come out of the med bay. It's like, Mirai, you had one job.
One piece.
I take a nap for 5 minutes and you crash the ship.
All I'm going to say is this. It's not as bad as the Enterprise D at the end of Star Trek Generations, where half the ship blew up and the other half crash landed onto a planet.
Yep. And it's like, I think, Picard found a few things from his quarters or office that managed to survive, and I think, but what happened to the goldfish?
That wasn't a goldfish. That was a lionfish.
Yeah, you know what I mean. His fish. Did the fish survive?
I don't
fish
think
is floating in space.
No, it fell over and it suffocated to death.
Still, the crashing scene of the Enterprise still gave us one of the funniest moments in the series when Data swore.
Oh, shit!
Why are we talking about Star Wars? We're here to talk about
Star Wars.
What is wrong with my brain? What is wrong with my brain? Why did I do that? I mean Star Trek. Why are we talking about Star Wars or Star Trek? We're here to talk about Gundam.
Space fights?
Space fights, there you go.
Ships crash landing.
Ships crash landing.
Ship limping across the finish line.
Now I'm picturing a giant data mech of some sort.
Oh, God. Well, it's a lot better than
a giant data mech versus a giant, Borg mech or something.
It can't be...
Because the Borg would build one of those things if they saw any purpose to it.
Well, I think the closest that we got to something like that was in an episode of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And then
the giant steam Cyberman.
Yes, that one. And then there was also the Japanese mechs from Batman Ninja.
I still need to see that. That's a future binge pass thing.
He's seen it.
He has. You and I have not. So.
No, I have.
Oh, well, I have not, so you and I can watch that.
Consider yourself blessed.
Fuck you. I will make my own decision. Thank you.
It's not that bad. Just lower your expectations and just watch it with an open mind.
Which is what I tend to do with these things.
I'm sorry, Batman. I can't lower Batman's expectations. Batman's pinnacle of God. Superman. Superheroes. He's awesome.
We'll get back to that one later.
Yes. We've rambled on enough for this. We're not doing a Ramblecast. We're here to do a Bingecast. So, let's get to the binge. And we're back following the binge of 5 episodes as we move into Operation ODESSA and then deal with the aftermath. This series of episodes introduced the Black Tri-Stars, or like ace pilots.
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
I think they're going to last a little bit longer than that.
Yeah.
Well, to be honest with you, with the prequel series, the Gundam: The Origin, it shows them in, I guess I could say, their early days, because when it first shows the team, it shows them with the Zaku 1s in their colors. And it shows them during the battle in which they were the ones actually responsible for capturing General Revel. Okay. So that's one of the reasons why when General Revel found out that they were coming to Earth, that's why he was so surprised, because
he's had dealings with them before.
Yes, simply because they captured him during a major battle.
A couple of a trio of rednecks, they're like the Tremor brothers from Smoking Aces crossed with Yosemite Sam.
Yeah.
The accents alone, I couldn't stop snickering every single time they opened their mouths.
To be honest with you, I kind of want to watch the episode with the Japanese track on it, just so I can hear what they sound like in Japanese.
My guess, they probably have a Kansai accent going, because that's sort of the bumpkin accent in Japan, if I'm remembering correctly.
So it's like the southern redneck Japan.
Sort of.
Okay. I guess every country has their rednecks.
Yeah.
Do they all have banjos?
No, that's a uniquely American affliction. But as Foxworthy once described, redneck is a glorious absence of sophistication.
Which it is.
It can be temporary or long term. Most of us have had a redneck moment.
I worked and lived in Richmond for 15 years, so I know exactly what that's like.
Yep. But the Black Tri-Stars had their own the Doms.
Yeah, which if you were paying attention to Ramblecasts, he ordered for those suits. Mm-hmm. And
Makuve basically said
no.
Yeah.
Even though at first he was told yes, but then he was told no afterwards, like, oh, hey, you're not getting these. Yeah. Why not? So a lot of people think that if Ramblecasts had the Dom suits,
might have gotten
the battle with Gundam may have turned a little differently.
This sequence of episodes also introduced the what I refer to as the surfboards or the goblin gliders for the mobile suits. Was there riding on the back of them like the Green Goblin and Spider-Man?
But the only difference is that those gliders that the Guffs were using had a crew on board.
Yeah. Well, so and then Gundam got its own in the G-Fighter.
Yeah.
We call it the cash cow because the toys, merchandise, and galore.
Yeah, that was.
Gotta get all the accessories for my Gundam.
My Gundam is 100% complete.
I got all the accessories.
Apologies to any people out there who actually talk like that.
No apologies at all. Come on. It's like you got to understand that we are going to have fun with that sort of voice.
But
at any rate.
But yeah, well, like any other franchise, it's like merchandising,
where the real money of the movie is made. Yeah, it was definitely a lot of that going on. But one thing I kind of want to sort of touch base on is, and I've noticed this over the course of the series, that they tend to, each side has nicknames for the other side's units.
Yeah.
Until and unless they find out what the units are actually called.
Yeah.
Like the Xeon referred to the white base as the Trojan horse. Although, granted, they're still referring to it as the Trojan horse even after they learn what it's actually called.
Yeah.
Probably because
they're so used to calling it that.
They're used to calling it that, and it may be that the intel hasn't disseminated throughout Xeon enough for everybody to get the memo. So they keep referring to it as the Trojan horse because that's what they expect people will understand it's called.
Yeah, and then there was also the gun parry, which is used as like a transport for either supplies, troops, or the Gundam.
The Gundam mods, yeah. Which they call the Icebox plane.
Well, that's how it looks.
It's true. We haven't really seen too much of the Federation doing the same thing for the Xeon units, though. But then they seem to pick up the intel on the Xeon units pretty quickly.
Yeah, they do.
Otherwise, they just sort of refer to like they refer to as the Guff as like the blue Zaku or whatever until they find out it's called a Guff, and then they start using.
Then they start calling it what it's actually called.
Then again, we're only seeing a white base there, and everybody, all the staff on white base seem to keep themselves informed on all that stuff pretty quickly. So
they have good intelligence reports.
Mm-hmm. They have a spy in there somewhere. You know they do.
Well, yes, that was in the last episode.
Besides Xeon, so far we've seen 3 Xeon spies. One got shot. One got arrested. The other one's on white base now.
Yeah, because that was one of the twists that came up in the first episode of this binge, episode 22, Matilda's Rescue. Because we finally see General Revel firsthand. I don't think we'd actually seen him.
You just heard his name.
We just heard his name, but this time we finally get to meet him and some of his council, and he addresses one of them, General Elron, and then we cut to Makuve, and he drops that name. I was like, wait, was that the same name? And then Chris was like, yes, that was. I was like, okay.
Well, this is what happens. This is also what happens when you've watched this series one too many times.
Fair. But he ends up getting caught, and arrested 2 episodes later.
Yeah, when Amuro and Sailor, which are in the G armor, which is a combination of the G fighter with the Gundam, they spot a Federation plane, essentially, coming out of a Xeon, basically like a land ship, is essentially what it is. And they're like, why didn't it get shot down? Let's follow it. So they followed it to General Revel's.
No, it was Elron's ship.
Yeah, but they were looking at it like, why wasn't it shot down?
Yeah.
So they followed it. It goes to General Revel's ship, basically a land battleship, which is called the Big Tray. And so they land the G armor onto it. And Amuro is talking to Elron. He's like,
your guy Judon was, or Judak, or whatever his name was,
is a spy. Because here's my proof, and he's showing him a picture of it
of the plane. Yeah, and Elron's just sort of like, I'm sorry you saw that. Pulls gun.
And he proceeds to. Well, that's when Amuro realizes you're the reason why. Matilda's dead. Oh yeah. By the way.
Spoilers. Matilda died.
Miss Matilda gets killed off by one of the Black Tri-Stars when he gets onto the front of her transport plane.
Oh, we think you're on the front. She crashed into him.
No. But originally she was going to be like, all right, we'll crash the ship into the ground and take the suit out. I'm assuming she was thinking that they were going to survive. And he goes... Yeah,
because the Medeas are a bit tougher than a core fighter when it comes to crashing into a mobile suit.
A little bit. But he goes, this plane's in my way. He takes the Dom's hands and smashes it into the cockpit, and the plane crashes into the ground and flips over and then explodes in a fiery, glorious blast.
Mm-hmm.
So Amuro realizes that this is the guy who's responsible for Xeon constantly being like one step ahead of everybody.
Yeah.
And it's also the reason why Operation Odessa kept getting delayed.
I really was hoping that he would say the trope that's every time.
Have you told anyone else?
Yes. Have you told anybody else this information? Good that it dies with you.
Like Water Noose and Monsters, Inc. Although they admittedly hid that one very, very carefully. You didn't immediately suspect anything when he first brought that up. But at any rate, we're talking Gundam, not Pixar.
Examples are good.
Yes.
But anyway, so, his little lackey, essentially, who's another Zeon spy, he goes out into the hallway with like 3 or 4 other Federation officers.
And they're just like, you don't go anywhere.
they're like, how this conversation goes, we might have some questions for you.
Yeah, exactly.
So they're listening in and they're recording the whole thing. And
give credit to those soldiers. So much of the time, that never happens.
As
the trope goes, when this sort of thing is happening, hey, I think we've got a traitor in the midst, and you're talking to the traitor. Nobody else is listening. They're not recording it from outside the room.
I love how they kind of show that they might be bad guys, but they don't show the eyes completely.
Yeah.
They walk away, you have no eyes, and they're like, "Aha, we've caught you!" Now they have eyes. Like, they were good guys.
Yeah, there you go. It's one of those little tropes when it comes to Japanese animation. When it comes for this sort of thing, it's the shorthand for person's not trustworthy. You can't read their eyes.
Exactly.
You can't look them in the eyes.
In the case of Amuro, when he was blanked out, laying in bed, and his eyes were just like completely blank.
Just like the lights are on, nobody's home.
Exactly. He gets shot through the door. They shoot him in the shoulder. And they're like,
you're under arrest.
They arrest him, and then after
Stop right there, criminal scum.
And then after that, Makuve doesn't get any more information after that.
And that leads to victory in Odessa, because he was expecting Elrond's.
I love when they said that they were doing the whole war plan. It's like, yes, because he didn't withdraw his forces, their line was easiest to break. Like, you guys suck.
So, Amuro also ends up killing one of the members of the Black Tri-Star, where they try to use this attack formation that they do, where the way it's done is the one who's in the front typically has, the melee weapon. Mm-hmm. The one behind it and the one last, they both have, a projectile weapon. Like, in this case, because the Doms have basically a bazooka. But when they were still using their Zakus, it was like Heat Axe, the typical Zaku machine gun, and then the third one would have a bazooka. So the way they attack usually is that if the first one misses,
or gets grappled,
or whatever, then the second one usually attacks, and then the third one attacks last.
Hits the coup de grace.
Yes, exactly. It's
I'm going to tie you up. I'm going to shoot you. I'll finish you off.
And, of course, they tried doing this specific attack twice, because it's worked for them so many times before in the past, that
Attack Formation Alpha.
Amuro, because his new type abilities are starting to manifest, he's actually able to detect, they're about to do something, before they even do it. And so
I remember when that was going on, you were like, here it is, here it goes, or whatever.
Yeah, because it was like that little moment where he looks over his shoulder, and that's when he's able to counterattack before they even do anything. And so he ends up stabbing one in the cockpit with the beam saber, and this is when Matilda's Medea ends up getting smashed. Yeah. And so after that, and during the battle, that's when they also bring up the Antarctic Treaty, which states that
no nukes,
no biological weapons,
no weapons of mass destruction.
Basically, yeah. I think that this. I don't think they ever really specified when the Antarctic Treaty was signed.
Regardless, they make it. It's made plain. It's a very big deal.
Yeah. Because the colony that Zeon drops early on in the war, they killed the entire population inside by gassing them. So I think that's one of the reasons.
And that combined with the colony dropping and devastating.
Basically, like the front section, the one that we keep seeing over and over again, that section landed in Australia. Like the other two sections, they landed like elsewhere. But during the battle, M'Quve gives this ultimatum to General Rebel.
Withdraw your troops, or I launch a nuke.
or I'll launch a nuke. And so he basically is like, you know what? I'm desperate enough to break this treaty.
It's just sort of like,
I'm a bad guy.
It's like, I am going to win. You do not get to beat me. If you do not withdraw, I will nuke you.
Which General Rebel
is just sort of like, fuck him, keep moving.
Essentially, that's what they do.
And then they basically call his bluff. He launches the nuke, and Amuro basically cuts it out of the sky.
Yes, where apparently he had to cut a specific part, which was like right at like essentially the tip of the missile.
Mm-hmm. So it can disable it or remove the active explosive, as it were, from the rocket.
And it basically crashes into the ground and explodes normally.
Yeah, just a conventional explosion rather than a nuke.
The more I sit here and look at this title screen, the more I realize I love old school animation.
There is something to it.
You know what? There is one animated movie that from Hayao Miyazaki that he wants to start off with. I just have to acquire it.
Yeah, we do plan on doing some Miyazaki films in the Bingecasts, because I have not seen any of them. I keep meaning to, just never have.
Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and announce this one when we start doing that. Now, it's not going to start off with Studio Ghibli. It's going to start off with the film that he actually starred with, which is Lupin III, The Castle of Cagliostro.
Lupin III!
So, yes, when we...
Zeke is happy to hear this, apparently.
So
Lupin is a masterpiece.
Yeah, I keep hearing that, too.
It's been around for a while, too.
It depends on what you talk about, because I think it's a dad and a son. The son takes over after a while for Lupin III.
I'll tell you. But yeah, that is one of the things that we are going to eventually do. I currently have the first... Actually, to be honest with you, this isn't even considered to be Studio Ghibli, but it's released under the banner of Studio Ghibli, is Nazca in the Valley of the Wind. So that's another old school one that we're going to end up watching at some point.
Getting back to Gundam, but after the Battle of Odessa, they basically discussed the arms race now going on with when it comes to mobile suits, because Gundam has basically changed everything. The war. And
it turned the tide.
It turned the tide, and now Zeon is basically mass producing more mobile suits, designing new types of mobile suits.
Yes,
to try to counteract the threat of the Gundam.
The one thing I'm surprised they don't mention is how Gundam may have shook in the ground, but they also have White Base, which is a ship that's beyond anything they've seen before.
All right, so slight little spoiler, but there are two other carrier ships that are like they're Pegasus class ships in the 1 Year War that were made after White Base. One of them being, and we'll see this in Mobile Suit Gundam 0080 War in the Pocket, is the one called trying to not mess this up, the Blank Rival, which carries suits that are kind of similar to what White Base carries. Like they have the mass-produced gun cannon, they have like a couple GEM snipers. But they don't have a Gundam. There is a Gundam in this particular one, but it's not being carried by the Pegasus class that's in that. There was another one called the Thoroughbred. That's another one that was in it, and that one is actually green, not white, but it's still Pegasus class.
Is it called Green Base?
Thoroughbred.
We'll probably end up calling it the Green Base when we get to it, but regardless. And the last two episodes reintroduce Char.
Yes.
He finally gets reassigned to essentially the C Division.
It's called the Mad Angler Squadron, and he's basically in command of a submarine at this point.
Sub-commanders, and submarine stuff is still is still kind of cool.
It's still relevant.
Even when you've got like space combat.
Yeah.
Again, we'll go back to the fact that I like the people who are old school veteran wars, because you had the submarine fight about to happen with the Zaku's coming up, something like that, out of the water, and the guy saying like, "We shall not retreat. We will watch this war from the front lines."
Rebel, yeah.
Yes.
Well, as the submarines and the GOGs, the amphibious mobile suits that Zeon has, started attacking the Federation harbor, one of Revel's aides is like, "Shouldn't you pull back to the bunker, sir?" And he basically is like, "No. If we are destined to die this day, it does not matter where."
And then we get to come on the white flag, please.
and he's just sitting there watching the battle from his window with his hands behind, or
either his hands behind his back or through a set of binoculars.
So
like a proper frontline general, not one of those rear echelon motherfuckers. I commented on that to Chris as we were watching. I was like, he is not some REMF.
Nope. But yeah, he's one of the old school guys. And
Boone is kind of the same way. He's just there. His submarine is surfaced enough that he's basically watching.
And he's literally just sitting there with a pair of binoculars in the foggiest of weather, going, "Yes, this battle's good."
I can see through the fog. It's my special ability.
Because I'm an old sea dog that way.
But and like after, and by the way, the GOG also does kind of mess up the Gundam a little bit by piercing the armor, because
it's claws.
It has claws for hands, and it grabs the Gundam's head underwater, which is where the suit is most effective, since underwater, and actually pierces the armor.
And it likes to use frog style jujitsu.
It's got the
kind of like the Beast in Kung Fu Hustle.
Well, it's got the. I haven't seen that movie in so long. It's the.
You haven't in so long. Okay.
And it's doing like hit and run tactics, where it's like, go up,
either ram
into it or hit it with the claws and kind of drag it a little bit and then let go.
Basically, keeps pulling Amuro out of position so he can't get a bead on it.
And one of the attacks that it does is he literally. After he gets done grabbing the Gundam from the side, it grabs it from under the chin after that, and then starts dragging it even more. And I gotta give them credit for this, is they always seem to go after the Gundam's head. Like the episode where the one Zaku was trying to take the head off for Ramblecasts and be like, "Oh, this will make a fine trophy for you, sir."
Yeah.
In this case, it was just get rid of the head.
It'll take out the cameras. It'll take out the Vulcan cannons. Granted, the Vulcan cannons aren't going to work underwater anyway.
Well, the Vulcan cannons didn't work against the damn thing because it was so heavily armored.
I mentioned the hammer as well.
The first time it did.
The first time it used its little Morning Star,
the Gundam hammer.
The Gundam hammer, it managed to knock it back, and he was just like, and the pilot and the GOG pilot was just like, "The fuck are you doing?" He tries it again, he just grabs it and yanks it out of his hand. Just like, knock that off.
But anyways, yeah, Amuro destroys it. The next episode, they introduce the next amphibious mobile suit, which is called a Zagak.
Which is basically like a GOG on steroids.
Essentially, yeah, and it has
a bunch of guns built into the top of its head, so when it's doing its battering ram attack underwater, it can still shoot while it's doing it.
It can still shoot you until it gets up close enough to you, and then it just rams itself into you.
He tried to do it to the gun tank, and the gun tank was just sort of like, no.
No, it tried to do it to the gun tank, but then the Gundam interfered.
No, it managed to collide with the gun tank, but it didn't knock the gun tank into the water like he was intending to do.
Well, the damn thing's on treads, not legs.
This is true, but he was still planning on like pushing it back, and then the Gundam comes in. And
No, what did you think of the when it was the Zagak and the Gundam underwater, and then
he's just like he pulls he launches up out of the water and lures it straight into the gun tank's cannons,
and just.
Boom!
Yeah, he doesn't destroy him, Amuro comes back down with the beam saber and slices it all the way down to the cockpit.
It stops the Zagok in its tracks,
Yeah.
essentially, which is all that Amuro needed to be able to just dead.
And where we end is a spy is now on board White Base, and
Miharu.
yes, and
which we haven't mentioned. Miharu has met Ken because Ken went and said, "I'm leaving this base. You do my thing." And then he's like, "Oh, damn, I can't leave these guys by themselves."
Yeah, Kai had his screw you guys, I'm going home.
It's not so much as that. It's just that he does not want to be a soldier at all.
Yeah,
which contradicts one thing they said. If you were not going to be a soldier, we're going to capture you.
We're going to imprison you for 1 year.
And then there's
you guys. And yeah, Rebel basically explains to them if you decide to leave the military, you will be imprisoned for 1 year because the people on White Base have been exposed to classified material and have been piloting classified technology
weapons
and stuff. He straight up says it's like ordinarily you'd be imprisoned for life, but we're only going to do it. It's only going to be for a year because martial law.
Yeah. So Kai.
The other thing that confused me as well is if he's creating the base, and why did he bring his military credentials to go? Hey, I need this motorcycle.
It's most likely it's the only form of ID that he has. Yeah. So he needs a form of ID, like for anything, like hotel, maybe getting a vehicle.
Then again, we only just saw him briefly flash it. We don't know how quickly how long he showed it to the guy. So much as he stopped the guy in his tracks and just sort of like flashes his ID, shoves the guy off, and just drove away.
Come back to this base when you need it. Bye.
Yeah, basically.
So, but yeah, he basically just leaves, which I'm pretty sure Bright and is somewhat glad to get rid of him, but at the same time, he's still calling him a coward. He's, I just don't think Bright ever really liked Kai.
Kai is not an easy person to like.
No.
He, as I was sort of saying as we were watching, he's a jerk.
Granted,
but he's very good at what he does, but he's a jerk.
Granted, I'm just going to go ahead and say this. He does pop up in Zeta Gundam, and Zeta Gundam takes place in 0087. So he's older. He's
mellowed out a bit.
Mellowed out a little bit, and he's not a cow. He's not really a coward anymore. He's definitely changed. He's matured more by the time of the events of Zeta.
War is going to have an effect on people, and by that point, I imagine he's probably seen a lot of war.
Yeah, thanks to all his, everything on board White Base. But yeah, after he tries leaving White Base, he meets Miharu. She kind of takes him in for a little bit. He gets his suspicions of things because he finds a gun in her little basket. And I think that maybe in his head he was thinking, oh, she just carries this for protection.
Because we're in the middle of a war.
Yeah. So
that's how I read it too. He didn't jump to conclusions.
Did he give up false information about the?
I think so.
That's what I thought.
Because he's probably not sure, but he's saying that just in case. So he's kind of like
he's hedging his bets.
Yeah, he's BSing it. Because he basically
because while he doesn't want to be doing all this, he's also still loyal to his friends on the White Base. He doesn't want to see them end up getting screwed over because he fucked up.
Yeah, so he goes back, and it's not like the same case of when Amuro deserted them, where Amuro basically just goes, packs his stuff, and just gets on Gundam and takes off. Kai, on the other hand, just grabs his stuff and leaves, and he's like, I'm out. He didn't take anything from the ship with him.
The only thing he took was his own personal belongings and Amuro's toolbox.
Well, that's because
Amuro gave it to him. He's like, here, you can probably pawn this to get money.
She comes back to him promptly says, it's worth nothing.
He's like, but I paid a lot for this.
Yeah, because Amuro's a naive little twerp.
Our binge ended with Miharu being on White Base.
As White Base is basically leaving.
Yes, because she is a spy for the Zeon, where one of the Mad Angler Squadron guys gave her credentials and a Federation uniform in a bag.
And orders from Char to get on that base, tell me where it's going. because Char is like, his pride is wounded because he's this ace pilot and he wasn't able to defeat the Gundam. And he's just like, I must defeat it. His pride demands it.
Yeah, and he's one of those like prideful people. It's kind of like I kind of want to say it's like Darth Vader at the end of the first Star Wars movie. Because remember, he, like when he kind of like got blasted off away because of the Millennium Falcon, and then
knocked him out, and out of formation and everything.
Yeah, it's kind of like that.
Yeah, kind of.
Except he never had revenge against Han Solo. Granted, I mean, he was somewhat responsible for him being frozen, but
that was just business.
Yeah.
At that point, the only thing Vader cared about was getting Luke.
Yeah. So, the next episode that we're going to see, which is called A Spy on Board, we also get to see our first underwater.
No. Oh yeah, in the last episode of the sequence that we just watched.
Which one was it?
The next episode is Across the Atlantic Ocean.
We're going to see our first underwater mobile armor.
Oh, that's right, because Revel did mention that some of the new designs that the Xeon were producing were being called mobile armor instead of mobile suits.
Which the first one that we technically see, which I think is was like a prototype mobile armor, was being used by McCuve and Cassilia.
Yeah, that one from that episode.
The one that looks like a UFO with landing gear.
Yeah.
Every time I think of mobile armors, there's a Gundam game, a fighting game for the PS2.
Are we talking about the Dynasty Warriors ones?
Not Dynasty Warriors. It was like side-scroll fighting game. And
I know the one.
You got to pick one of the mobile armors, and it just took over the whole side of the screen.
So it's like in Marvel vs. Capcom 2 with the Sentinel?
Yeah. It's like, big thing, tiny bit Gundam, like, well,
or
damn.
the big giant, like, blob creature from, like, the final boss in story mode.
Yeah, one of those. So what did you guys think of the underwater mobile suits?
I did like them. I found it funny. I just kept thinking of them as like big frogs. Especially the first Gog that we see fight. It like tried to like grab the G fighter or whatever when it was on the ground. And
the G bull.
Yeah, that one. And it like tries to grab it, and when it just sort of pulls backward, it just uses that claw to just launch itself forward. I was just like, this is like fucking Toad style here.
Yeah, and it when it's underwater, for its to maneuver more in the water, its arms actually tuck in to the shoulders.
I do like that they show some of the work in how some of these transformations or whatever take place. Seeing stuff sort of folding in, or.
Are you talking about when you first see the G armor turn back into the G fighter?
It shows
like the inside of it.
Yeah, that's stuff. It actually shows some of the stuff like connecting and the clamps coming into position. I'm like, it's little touches like that. Granted, they reuse animations a whole lot in this stuff, and I'm like,
sometimes it's not really necessary to see it over.
Yeah, and I'm just like, you're just padding out the episode here. Granted, I get it. It's cheaper to produce that way.
Plus it also goes with the narration.
Yeah. A lot of it does tend to take place during the episode opening and narration things. Which, thankfully, we're now past the first 10 episodes where it was like the same narration for every episode. Now it's more like recapping some of recent events instead of, here's how we got to where we are today.
Zeke, what about you? What did you think of them?
I like the Black Tri-Star Bell.
You like that?
I do kind of like the Black Tri-Star, especially it helps that those pilots were more unique than some of these just random dudes.
It's more unique. It's just more the fact of the way they look. I mean, I'm not much of a Royal Combat guy.
Are we talking about the pilots or the suits?
The suits. You said how I think about
the DOMs, yeah.
The mobile suits and stuff like that, and the wars. I didn't like them as much. I like the Black Tri-Stars.
Their suits, the DOMs, yeah.
Here's the funny thing is that the colors that you see the DOMs have, that's the colors that the Black Tri-Stars use. Mm-hmm. Again, when we get to Gundam the Origin, you'll see their versions of the Zaku 1 and the Zaku 2 and the Zaku High Mobility,
they
all have that color. So those colors are meant to be their colors. And they're the first ones to really get to use the DOMs. So because of everything that they did during the war, the DOMs stay with those colors to pay tribute to the Black Tri-Stars. Now, again, I'm kind of getting somewhat spoilery here.
That's cool.
In 8th MS Team, the first Xeon mobile suit that you see in that is the test version for the DOMs. The bottom half is the DOM, and this is in space, mind you.
Yeah.
It has the legs. Mm-hmm. The top half is a Zaku. So that's basically a test module for it. For the Zaku in it. Kind of like going back to the Battle of ODESSA, you see, I know you don't see mobile suits except for the Gundam and the gun cannon. Those are like the only two mobile suits that you see in there. But there were actually mobile suits on both sides. You just don't really see them. There's an episode in 8th MS Team where you see 3 Zakus that survived that battle. One of them has its shoulder shield completely gone, and it's carrying a shield that one of the mass-produced gems, you'll see them later on, is carrying a Federation mobile suit shield as a replacement for it. And I'm just like, alright, that's cool.
I mean, what you do after, in the heat of battle, you pick up whatever is necessary to keep fighting.
Yeah, and then you just go from there.
It's happened all the time in like World War II. People would like take German guns and stuff partly as trophies and partly to use them because maybe the soldier found them better or more reliable than whatever the American side.
I mean, we all did it in Call of Duty.
Yep. Dumped whatever you were using for an MP5 or whatever.
So, alright, so let me ask you guys this real quick. Amongst the character deaths that we have seen so far, which one was the most shocking for you?
Probably still Ryu.
Still Ryu?
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah. I mean, none of them really shocking to me. The one that affected me the most would be still Rom. I mean, I like that character.
Rambaral?
Yeah, I still like that character so much more than anything else.
Because I remember...
I don't know that I would call his shocking, because that was what Chris asked.
That's what I'm saying. Shocking, like, all of them haven't been really shocking to me. It's more the fact that...
The only reason why I asked that question is because I remember what you said when they first introduced him, and you were like, God, I hope they don't kill him in a stupid way.
Yeah.
That's why I asked you. I was just like, so how did you feel about his death? Was it a stupid way, or was it a good death?
It was a good death.
Okay.
It was a good death. It was
he went out like a hero.
Yeah.
Instead of a chump.
Like, that's why I said I couldn't say any of these deaths are shocking. Maybe because of the Gundam stuff I've played and stuff like that, since this is my first time watching Gundam the original, but I do know certain characters die, I do know certain things happen because of the Dynasty games like that. And I'm sitting there like, okay, I know this person's going to die, so it's not really shocking. But which one affected me most would have to be Ronda Rousey.
Right.
Ronda
Rousey, did you? There's a crossover for you.
I mean, to make it feel any better, I've heard Benedict Cumberbatch try to pronounce penguin, and he pronounces it as penguin.
I mean, that he's British. They have weird ways of pronouncing things.
No. Even Graham Norton was like, penguin. So, but anyways, for me, when I first watched this, I think the one character I was not expecting to see get killed off was Ryu.
He struck me as one of those like dependable guys that was going to last at least until the last third of the series.
And he doesn't.
No,
but he did. He was still, he was still a good character. It's probably one of the favorable characters in this one. But, it's kind of like what they say with Game of Thrones. Don't have a favorite character, because most likely they will get killed off.
Don't get attached to your favorites.
But
that's another future Bingecast thing, is Game of Thrones.
You got the HBO thing, so...
Yep.
But yeah, so...
But yeah, it was a good binge, I'd say. My favorite episode is probably going to, I'd say, the Battle of ODESSA. Black Tri-Star is a close second, but
you just wish that they had lasted at least a little bit longer.
Yeah, just because they were They were more interesting than your generic Mobile Suit pilots that you tend to see. Amuro going up against.
They weren't the red shirts; they were the yellow shirts.
Except for the one that got killed in the first episode.
Yeah,
he still wasn't a red shirt. He was a generic yellow shirt.
Yeah.
He had just gotten his promotion. Yep. Finally got rid of that red shirt. And
he forgot to do the one thing. He forgot to burn the red shirt. Instead, he kept it in the actual thing. Just in case you need change.
Alternately, he was 2 weeks away from retirement. 2 weeks away from getting to go back to Zeon.
But
I do want to know why the submarine people look like they're from Russia.
It's probably because
that's the trope when it comes to.
Well, the thing is that I think is it because of the coats, the outfits that they're.
Yeah.
Most likely, what it is that when they're because they're this part takes place in Dublin, Ireland. It's pretty damn cold out there, and they're in the middle of the ocean.
They're in the North Sea or the Northern Atlantic.
The only thing I can think of
and cold. Sorry, Ireland. It's fucking cold.
There's a reason why they spend the most of their time in pubs.
The only thing I think is the people who dressed up for Hunt for Red October. The way they had those outfits, the exact same outfits they were wearing.
Like I said, it's sort of the trope
to
me for a submarine commander is going to have those coats. If they go above deck at any whether they're at port or at sea, they're above deck. They're going to have the great coat on. But yeah, I got some Russian vibes off that as well. I was like, is this guy supposed to be Russian? The name like Boone, probably not. But then again, you can't really make those sorts of assumptions. It
also doesn't help. It also doesn't help that nobody in these particular animes have accents. So it's
apart from the Canadian accent that keeps popping up.
In the high pitch.
Most likely they got.
You just keep hearing sorry all the time.
What was the company that did the first half of Dragon Ball Z? Ocean, because it's known as the Ocean dub, which is based up in Canada. I'm wondering if whether or not a lot of those voice actors were involved with this.
I mean, it's a gig. I'm sure the voice actors weren't going to turn it down. This was back before voice acting was actually seen as something. That should get paid for better and look for quality people.
No. That still goes on.
Granted, it still goes on, but it's like nowadays voice actors get treated with a little bit more respect.
Oh, yeah. Especially some of the veteran voice actors that are out there.
And I figured out which Gundam I was talking about. The mobile album for the game is Big Zom.
Oh, yeah, you'll see that later on.
I can't wait for Jay's response for that.
I'm just going to be like, God damn.
Yeah.
Say he's got legs.
I mean, most of the mobile things have legs.
No. Well, this is a mobile armor because, the ones that we've seen, the one that we saw before was basically again a UFO, and then the one that we're gonna see in across the Atlantic Ocean, that one's underwater, so it has everything for it's.
And it's an underwater one because it's probably gonna have fins.
No,
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
It makes fishy faces. Fishy faces.
Anyway, we've been talking here for a while. I think it's about time we wrap it up. So
until next week.
Our next points. As we're recording this, I am finally reporting back to work now that the lockdown has finally been lifted at my office. So that's going to affect our schedule a little bit, but we're hoping it's not going to disrupt things too much.
We have a schedule.
As well, we try to get these things done. Well, prior to this, we've been basically doing it whenever. Now we're going to have to actually figure out when we can fit it into my schedule, not just your schedules. Maybe we'll have to let some schedule slipping go on. Maybe not, but we're hoping not to have it disrupt things too much. But that's for us to worry about, not so much for you. But for Zeke and Chris, I'm Jay, and we'll see you next time. 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 You next time.